Captain Ryan sat in the cockpit, staring at the blinking red warning lights. His ship, the Star Warden, was barely holding together. The engines made a deep grinding noise every time he tried to push the throttle. The navigation screen flickered on and off like it was tired of working. He knew he had to land before the whole thing shut down for good. Far ahead, through the dusty clouds of space, a small station appeared. It floated alone near the edge of human space where the patrol routes ended and danger began. The place looked old. Its metal skin scratched and dull from years of asteroid dust. Half of its lights were off, making it look more like a ghost in the dark than a working station. But Ryan had no choice. This was the only safe port for hundreds of light years. He guided the Star Warden slowly toward the docking bay. Every movement made the ship shudder. The last time he had flown something this broken, he had crashed it on a desert moon. He prayed this time would be different. The docking clamps locked on with a loud metallic thud. Ryan leaned back in his seat, breathing out a long sigh. He grabbed his jacket and stepped out of the cockpit. The ship's airlock hissed open, letting in the cold scent of old metal and machine oil. The docking bay was almost empty. A few cargo crates sat in one corner, and a half-dead cleaning bot rolled slowly past him. Ryan didn't see any crew, no welcome officer, no dock workers, nothing. The silence was strange, but he shrugged it off. Maybe the station was just understaffed. Then he heard footsteps, slow, steady, and coming from the far side of the bay. Out of the shadows, a figure appeared. She was tall and slim, wearing a dusty gray jumpsuit with strange tools hanging from her belt. Her skin was pale with a faint silver glow under the lights, and her eyes were not human. They were a deep, sharp gold, glowing faintly like the reflection of a sun. "You need repairs," she said, her voice calm but carrying a weight that made Ryan pay attention. "Yes," he replied cautiously. "Engines are dying, nav systems acting up, and I don't have much time." She didn't ask for details, didn't even look at him. Instead, she walked straight to his ship and ran her hand over the hull. Her fingers brushed the metal, and Ryan swore he saw the ship's surface ripple like water. She pulled out a tool, something he didn't recognize, and it began to hum softly. In her hand, "I can fix it," she said after a moment. "But it will cost you more than credits," Ryan frowned. "What does that mean?" She turned and looked at him, and for a second, the gold in her eyes seemed brighter. "It means you will owe me something," she said. Before Ryan could ask what, the lights in the docking bay flickered. They didn't just dim, they breathed, glowing and fading like something alive, and in that brief darkness, Ryan thought he saw movement, shapes shifting in the corners where no one stood. "Old station wiring," he muttered, trying to brush it off. But the mechanic didn't look at the lights. She looked at the shadows, her jaw tightened, and she spoke without turning to him. "We don't have much time." Ryan crossed his arms. "Look, I just need this ship fixed before someone decides to rob me." She gave a small, almost bitter smile. "If only that was your biggest problem." He opened his mouth to argue, but she was already back at work. Her hands moved quickly, too quickly, tools slicing open panels and pulling out wires with inhuman precision. The ship's metal seemed to bend for her, almost as if it wanted to obey. Ryan watched closely now, his suspicion growing. He had dealt with plenty of alien engineers before, but none like this. Her tools didn't just cut or weld, they changed the metal, reshaped it without heat, and every few seconds, she would pause and glance toward the dark corners of the bay. Finally he asked, "What are you looking at?" She didn't answer at first. Then, in a voice so low he almost didn't hear it, she said, "They know you're here." A chill ran through him. "Who?" he asked, trying to keep his tone steady. She finally looked at him again, those golden eyes locking onto his. "You'll find out soon enough," she said. "If we survive the night." Strange repairs. Ryan stayed close to his ship, watching the alien mechanic work. Her name, she said, was Lyra, though the way she spoke, it sounded like it held another meaning in her own language. Her hands moved like they had done this for centuries. Fast, careful, but with a kind of rhythm that almost felt alive. The Star Warden had been repaired before by humans, station crews, even military engineers, but none of them had ever made the ship respond like this. Every time her strange tool touched the hull, the metal gave off a faint hum, panels shifted. Opened by themselves, wires untangled without being pulled, and broken parts seemed to heal instead of being replaced. Ryan leaned against a cargo crate, pretending to be relaxed. In truth, his heart was beating faster. He didn't like not knowing what she was doing. Ships were like a second skin to a captain. You could feel when someone was changing them in ways you didn't understand. "You've got tech I've never seen," he said finally. Lyra didn't look up. "It's not tech," she replied softly. "It's memory." Ryan frowned. "Memory? Ships don't have memories." She gave a faint smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Yours does." That sentence stuck in his mind. Before he could ask more, the docking bay lights flickered again. This time, it wasn't just a blink. They dimmed so low that the far corners of the bay vanished into black. And in that blackness, Ryan thought he saw movement again. Shapes stretching, bending, like shadows trying to peel themselves off the walls. When the lights returned, Lyra was standing perfectly still, her eyes fixed on the same spot. "What was that?" Ryan asked. She didn't answer, just turned back to the ship, her pace faster now. The sound of her tools filled the bay, a deep, pulsing hum mixed with the whisper of shifting metal. Ryan moved closer. "If there's something dangerous here, I want to know." She stopped suddenly and looked at him. "Dangerous?" She repeated. "Captain, dangerous is too small a word." She pointed to a section of the hull she had opened. Inside, instead of human-built wiring, Ryan saw glowing lines, soft pulsing blue, like veins inside a living thing. She said, "Is not part of your original ship?" Ryan stepped back. "What do you mean?" "I bought this ship 6 years ago from a union dealer." Her golden eyes seemed to glow brighter. "No, you bought a shell." Her fingers brushed one of the glowing veins, and the entire shivered under their feet. Ryan had no words. Ships weren't alive. Ships didn't shiver. Lyra kept working without looking at him. "Someone has been preparing your ship for months, maybe years. For what?" Ryan asked. She glanced at the shadows again before answering. "For them." A cold weight settled in Ryan's stomach. Them who? But she didn't answer. She was already moving to another part of the ship. The air in the docking bay felt heavier now. Ryan realized the silence had grown thicker, too thick. Even the old cleaning bot that had been moving earlier was gone. Somewhere far away in the station, metal groaned long and low, like the sound of a door being forced open. Lyra's head snapped up, and for the first time, Ryan saw something in her expression. Fear. "They're closer than I thought," she said quietly. Ryan reached for the small pistol he kept under his jacket. She shook her head. "That won't help, Captain." He was about to argue when the station lights went out completely. Only the faint blue veins in his ship and the gold of Lyra's eyes lit the darkness. Ryan's breath was loud in the still air. Somewhere in that darkness, something scraped against the metal floor. Slow, dragging, deliberate. Lyra's voice came calm but urgent. "Stay near the ship, no matter what you hear." Ryan wanted to ask why, but then he heard it. A whisper, right behind him. It wasn't a voice exactly, but something that slid into his mind like oil. He spun around, but saw nothing. Lyra kept working, her hands a blur, the blue glow in the ship growing brighter. The whisper came again, curling around his thoughts. It didn't feel like words. It felt like hunger. Then, from the blackness, something stepped forward. At first Ryan thought it was a shadow cast by nothing, but as it moved, he realized it was the thing casting the shadows, tall, thin, its edges shifting like smoke, its form never staying the same. Lyra didn't even look up. "Do not speak to it," she said firmly. "Do not answer, no matter what it says." Ryan's mouth had gone dry. The thing stopped just at the edge of the blue glow from the ship. It tilted its head, if it even had a head, and he felt the pressure in his mind grow stronger. "Lyra," he whispered. She didn't look up. "Almost done." The thing's shape seemed to stretch toward him. Ryan's grip on his pistol tightened. Though he knew she was right, it wouldn't help. Then, just as the whisper became almost unbearable, the blue glow from the ship flared so bright it hurt his eyes. The shadow thing pulled back into the dark, gone as fast as it had appeared. The lights in the docking bay came back on, weak but steady. Lyra exhaled slowly. "Now," she said, "we can talk." A warning. The docking bay was quiet again. Too quiet. Ryan stood frozen for a moment, listening for the scrape of that thing in the shadows. Nothing came, only the faint hum of his ship and the slow hiss of the station's air system. But the silence felt wrong, like the whole place was holding its breath. Lyra put her tools away without looking at him. Her movements were quick, sharp, almost angry. Finally, Ryan stepped closer. "What was that thing?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked to the ship's console inside the open hull panel and touched it. The glowing blue veins pulsed once, as if reacting to her hand. "That," she said quietly, "was a scout." Ryan frowned. A scout for what? Her golden eyes lifted to his, and in them he saw something he hadn't seen before. Not just fear, but urgency. "For the ones that travel between folds of space," she said. "The ones who make your engines fail, your navigation vanish, your ship drift exactly where they want it to." Ryan's mouth went dry. "You're saying my ship breaking down wasn't an accident?" She shook her head slowly. It was an invitation. He felt a cold rush through his chest. "Why me? Why my ship?" She turned back to her tools. "Because your ship has something they want." Her words hit like a blow. He opened his mouth to demand more answers, but she raised her hand to stop him. "Listen," she said. "I need you to understand this. The thing you saw is only one of them, and it didn't come alone." Ryan's eyes darted to the far corners of the docking bay. Nothing moved, but the shadows seemed deeper than before. "I can fight them off for a short time," Lyra continued. "But once the larger ones arrive, this station will not survive." Ryan took a step back toward his ship. "Then let's leave now." Her gaze was steady, almost cold. "We can't. Your ship is not ready, and if you try to leave now, they will tear it apart before you clear the system." He stared at her. "Then what are you doing?" She gave the faintest smile. "I'm turning your ship into something they can't follow." Ryan didn't know whether to laugh or be terrified. "Can't follow? These things just appeared." "Yes," she said. "They step through places humans don't even see. They walk between moments. They slip in through the gaps in time." Her voice was calm, but the way her hands gripped her tools told him she wasn't as calm as she sounded. She glanced over her shoulder at him. "If they take your ship, they can open a door big enough for the rest of their kind to come through. And then, Captain, your people will know what real invasion looks like." Ryan's mind spun. This was too much. A dying ship, a strange alien mechanic, shadow things hunting him. It sounded like a bad spacer's tale told over too many drinks. But the memory of that whisper in his head was still fresh, still cold. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Tell me what I need to do." Lyra studied him for a moment, as if deciding whether to trust him. Finally she said, "Stay close. Do not leave the blue light. And if you hear them speak to you again, you do not answer, no matter what they promise." Her tone was final. Ryan nodded, even though he wasn't sure he could follow that last rule. Another sound echoed through the station, not a scrape this time, but a deep, metallic clang from far away. Lyra's head snapped up. "They're testing the walls," she said. "The scout found you, and now it's calling the others." Ryan's pulse quickened. "How long until they get here?" She was already back at work, her hands moving fast over the glowing veins of the ship. "Not long enough," she said. "So we work faster." Ryan glanced at the docking bay doors, wondering if he'd have to fight whatever came through. The Station's silence broke again, another clang. Closer this time, he swallowed hard. Lyra, if they break through, they won't, she said without looking up. Not before I finish. Ryan wasn't sure if she was promising him safety or lying to keep him from panicking. Either way, the shadows around the edges of the bay seemed to shift again, and for a moment, he could swear the darkness was smiling at him. The truth. Air in the docking bay was heavy. Ryan could hear his own heartbeat in the silence. Every now and then, the deep clang of metal echoed through the station, each one closer than the last. Lyra kept working, her hands moving so fast they blurred. The blue veins in the ship glowed brighter now, casting strange shadows on the walls. Finally she stopped, her golden eyes locked on Ryan. "You keep asking questions, Captain," she said quietly. "Maybe it's time I give you one answer." Ryan stepped forward. "I think I deserve more than one." She didn't smile, didn't argue. Instead, she placed her hand on the hull of his ship. The glow from the veins shifted, pulsing in rhythm with her breathing. "This ship," she said, "is not what you think it is." Ryan frowned. "It's a cargo runner, old, slow, and falling apart." Her gaze sharpened. "That's what they wanted you to think." She tapped the hull with her fingers, each tap making the faint chime. "This shell was built by humans, yes, but the heart of it is older than your species." Ryan stared at her. "What do you mean older? How old?" She didn't answer immediately. Her eyes drifted to the docking bay doors as another metallic clang shook the floor. Finally she said, "Older than your son." The words hit him like a cold wind. "That's impossible," he said. Lyra tilted her head. "Is it? You've seen faster-than-light travel, planets that float in gas clouds, moons made of diamond, and yet this is where you draw the line?" Ryan had no reply. She went on, "Your ship is not just a machine. It's a lock, and inside it is something they have been trying to open for centuries." Ryan's stomach twisted. "A lock to what?" Her voice dropped lower. "To a gate." He felt the hairs on his arms rise. "What kind of gate?" Her golden eyes didn't blink, the kind you don't want opened. Another clang shook the bay, louder, closer. This time, Ryan could feel the vibration in his bones. "They're coming," he said. "Yes," she replied. "And they're coming for this ship, not you. You're just the courier who brought it to the door." Ryan took a step back, his mind racing. So all this time, every breakdown, every strange reading on my sensors, was them, she finished, making sure you ended up here, where they could take it. He shook his head. "Why didn't you stop me before now?" Her gaze softened just slightly. "Because I didn't know it was you carrying it, until I saw the ship." Ryan leaned against a crate, trying to process her words. "All right," he said slowly. "Then what are you? Some kind of alien engineer?" This time she did smile, but it was thin and tired. "I am not a mechanic, Captain. I am a warden." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "A warden? Like a guard?" "Yes," she said. "I was sworn to keep this lock sealed, no matter where it was hidden, and your people did a clever thing, hiding it in plain sight as a freighter." Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. "Okay, suppose I believe you. What happens if they get it open?" Lyra's eyes went to the glowing veins of the ship. "They will bring through what waits on the other side," she said. "And if that happens, your kind won't have time to name them. Before you're gone." The docking bay shook again. This time, dust fell from the ceiling, and the station's warning lights began to flash. Ryan's instincts screamed at him to run, but Lyra stood firm. She placed her hand flat against the hull, and the ship's glow surged brighter than ever. "If I finish this," she said, "they won't be able to touch you, but I need time." Ryan glanced at the bay doors, where faint black tendrils of shadow were beginning to creep through the seams. "How much time?" She met his eyes. "More than we have." The attack, the first scream of metal, was so loud it felt like it tore the air apart. Ryan spun toward the docking bay doors just in time to see the steel bend inward, not break, bend, like it was made of soft clay. The black tendrils that had been creeping through the seams were thicker now, twisting and curling like they had minds of their own. Lyra didn't look up from her work. "Keep your eyes on them," she said. "If they vanish from sight, they will be behind you, Ryan's." Grip tightened on his pistol, even though he knew it was useless. He aimed at the writhing black shapes anyway, his finger trembling over the trigger. The station lights flickered once, twice, and then went out completely. Only the glow from the Star Warden lit the bay, a soft blue pulse that made the shadows dance along the walls. That's when Ryan saw it, from the hole in the bay doors. Something stepped through. It wasn't walking exactly. It moved like liquid given shape, flowing forward but keeping a tall, thin form. Every time it shifted, its outline changed, as if his eyes couldn't decide what it really looked like. 2 more shapes followed it inside, each one different, but somehow the same. Their presence was wrong, like they were pulling the warmth out of the air just by standing there. The temperature dropped so fast Ryan's breath turned white. The closest shadow tilted its head toward him. He felt that same oily whisper slide into his thoughts. "Colder this time. Give us the lock," the voice said inside his mind, "and we will let you live." Ryan clenched his teeth. He remembered Lyra's warning. Do not answer, no matter what they promise. Instead, he stepped back toward the glowing hull, letting the blue light touch his boots. The creatures stopped moving, their shifting bodies quivering as if the light burned them. Lyra's voice came sharp and clear. "Good. Stay in the glow, Captain. They can't cross it yet." Ryan risked a glance at her. Her hands were deep inside the ship's open panel, pulling at the glowing veins. The light grew brighter with each movement. Another metallic shriek filled the air as the rest of the bay doors gave way. Shadows poured in, dozens of them, crawling along the walls, the ceiling, even across the floor like pools of ink. Ryan's pulse pounded in his ears. "How many of them are there?" He shouted over the noise. Lyra didn't look up. "Enough to take the whole station, unless we finish." One of the creatures darted forward. It moved so fast it was just a smear of black in the air. Ryan fired his pistol without thinking. The shot passed through the shape, leaving a hole in its form that closed instantly. The creature laughed, not aloud, but inside his skull. The sound made his vision swim. It lunged again, this time stopping just at the edge of the glow. The blue light licked at its shape like fire on paper. It hissed. Or maybe that sound was inside Ryan's head too, and pulled back. Lyra's voice was tighter now. "They can't cross the barrier, but they can weaken it. Don't let them touch the ship." Ryan's eyes swept the bay. 2 of the creatures had already moved to opposite sides, creeping closer to the glowing hull. He fired at them, forcing them back, though the shots did nothing more than slow them down. Then the floor beneath him shook so violently he nearly fell. From the torn bay doors, something far bigger began to push through. The smaller shadows drew back, as if giving it space. Ryan's breath caught in his throat. This thing didn't move like the others. It wasn't shifting or flowing. It was solid, and its size dwarfed the others completely. He couldn't see its full shape, only parts of it through the gap. A limb like a column of black glass. A mouth that wasn't really a mouth, lined with rows of something sharp. Lyra's voice dropped low, urgent. "That's not a scout. That's a feeder." Ryan didn't want to ask what it fed on. He already had a guess. And the way it reached for the blue glow told him he was right. The ship's light was almost blinding now. Lyra's hands moved in a blur, and the veins in the hull began to hum so loudly Ryan felt it in his chest. The feeder roared, a soundless roar that rattled his bones, and slammed its massive limb against the barrier of light. The glow flared, holding for now, but the impact sent a shockwave through the bay that knocked Ryan to one knee. "Lyra!" He shouted. She didn't look at him. Almost there. Ryan forced himself back up, firing again at the smaller shadows that kept testing the barrier. The feeder slammed the glow again, harder this time. The light dimmed for a split second, and Ryan saw several of the smaller ones trying to slip in through the flicker. His shots drove them back, but the dimming scared him more than the things themselves. He realized then that if the glow went out even for a second, they would all be inside, and there would be no stopping them. The feeder slammed against the blue barrier again. The light rippled like water under the force. Ryan could feel the impact in his teeth. The smaller shadows circled like predators waiting. For the moment, the fence went down. Lyra's hands were a blur inside the open panel. The glowing veins of the ship pulsed faster and faster. Suddenly, she slammed a final crystal-like shard into the heart of the system. The ship's glow surged, bright enough to paint the entire docking bay in blue-white light. Ryan shielded his eyes. "What did you just do?" Lyra stepped back from the panel, her breathing fast. "I woke it up," she said. "Woke what up?" Ryan demanded. She pointed toward the ship's core. "Not what, who?" The veins in the hull shifted. For a moment, Ryan thought he saw shapes moving inside the metal, like something alive was pressing from within. "This ship isn't just a lock," Lyra said. "It's a weapon, built to destroy them." Ryan stared at her. "Then use it." Her golden eyes didn't waver. "I can't. It only responds to a human pilot," Ryan blinked. "Why?" "Because," she said, "the weapon was built by humans long before your recorded history, before you even knew you had left Earth." Ryan laughed once, short and humorless. "That's insane." "Insane or not," Lyra said, "you're the only one who can fire it." The feeder slammed the barrier again, and the light dimmed dangerously. The smaller shadows surged forward. Testing the weak spots, Ryan fired at them, forcing them back. "All right," he said. "Suppose I believe you. How does this weapon work?" Her answer was quick. "You don't need to know how, you just need to connect with it." She ran to the cockpit, motioning for him to follow. Ryan hesitated. Every instinct told him this was a trap, but the shadows outside didn't leave him much of a choice. He followed her inside. The hum of the ship vibrating through the floor. The cockpit was not how he remembered it. The panels had shifted, revealing hidden controls covered in glowing lines like the veins outside. A seat in the center pulsed with faint blue light. "What is this?" he asked. "An interface," she said. "Once you sit there, the ship will read you, your mind, your body, your memories, and it will shape the weapon through you." "That sounds like something that could kill me," Ryan muttered. Lyra's eyes didn't soften. "It might, but if you don't, they will." The feeder's roar echoed through the bay again, louder now. The shadows slammed the barrier from three sides, and the hum of the light wavered. Ryan looked at the glowing seat. "You're telling me I just sit there and think about killing them?" "Not think," she said. "Feel. The ship will understand what you want, and it will do the rest." "And what if I want to run?" he asked. Her gaze hardened. "Then the weapon will die, and so will everyone in this sector." The ship shook as the feeder slammed the barrier again. The glow dimmed more than before. Dust fell from the ceiling, and a thin crack appeared along the wall where the barrier met the bay doors. Through the gap, one of the smaller shadows began to push its way inside. Lyra stepped closer, her voice low, urgent. "I can hold them back for maybe one more minute. After that, there will be nothing left to save." Ryan's heart pounded. 1 minute to decide. Trust the alien warden and merge with a ship that might tear his mind apart. Or wait and let the shadows flood in. He glanced at the creeping darkness spilling from the cracked barrier, then at the glowing seat waiting for him in the center of the cockpit. The hum of the ship grew louder, almost like it was calling him. Ryan stepped forward and sat down. The final choice. The moment Ryan sat in the glowing seat, the ship reacted. Blue light flared around him, rising like waves. The controls melted away, replaced by shifting lines of light that swirled through the air. Then he felt it, a presence. Inside his head, it wasn't Lyra, and it wasn't human. It was ancient, deep, and heavy, like a voice that had been waiting for someone to listen for a very long time. Pilot detected. It said in a tone that wasn't sound, "Authorization complete." Ryan's breath caught. "You can hear me?" "We can feel you," the voice answered. "Your fear, your doubt, your choice. Outside the cockpit, the feeder roared again. The blue barrier was cracking under its strikes. Smaller shadows slipped through the gaps. Clawing at the hull, Ryan could feel them too, not with his eyes, but with the ship's senses. They were like black holes in the air, eating light, eating warmth. Lyra's voice came from somewhere behind him. They're inside. Ryan, now! Her words merged with the ship's voice. Release the seal, it told him. Let us strike. Ryan's hands hovered over the glowing lines in front of him. They pulsed, waiting for his command. But he hesitated. What happens if I do this? They will burn, the voice said simply. But so will parts of you, his heart pounded. Parts of me? The weapon needs more than your hands, pilot. It needs your will, your strength, your memories. The meaning sank in. This wasn't just firing a gun. If he agreed, he might not come back the same. Or come back at all. The feeder slammed. The ship again, and this time Ryan felt the hit inside his skull. Pain flared in his head, bright and sharp. Lyra shouted, Ryan! If you don't fire now, there's nothing left to save. He looked at her, the golden-eyed alien who had dragged him into this, and then out the viewport at the swarm of shadows closing in. He thought of the whisper in his head earlier, promising life if he handed over the lock. He thought of how cold that promise had felt, and he knew deep down there was no deal to make. Ryan gritted his teeth. Do it, he told the ship. The light surged. Lines of blue shot from his hands into the air, racing through the hull like lightning. The veins on the ship's surface flared so bright, they lit the station like a small sun. The feeder froze mid-strike, its shifting black form twisting in pain. The smaller shadows screamed in a sound that wasn't sound, a tearing, ripping feeling inside his chest. Then the light exploded outward, not fire, not plasma, something purer, sharper. The wave of energy tore through the shadows, unraveling them like smoke in wind. The feeder's massive form broke apart, its limbs splintering into nothingness. Ryan felt every one of them die, and with each one, a piece of himself seemed to fade too. The light dimmed slowly. The hum of the ship dropped to a low, steady thrum. Smoke and dust hung in the air of the docking bay. The shadows were gone, but Ryan's hands were trembling. He felt lighter, emptier, like the weapon had taken something from him. Lyra stepped into the cockpit, her face unreadable. You did it, she said. Ryan looked at her, his voice low. What did it take from me? She didn't answer. Instead, she glanced at the ship's console, where a single glowing line of alien symbols pulsed faintly. Ryan frowned. What does that say? Lyra's eyes met his, and for the first time, he saw something like worry in them. It says, she murmured, that the lock is open.